What's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen? 1. My mother passed away from what we think were complications related to lupus. I watched her go from the strong woman I loved to a shell. She had sores all over her body and they were covered in band-aids because she couldn't stop scratching them. She couldn't get out of bed or walk by herself because the pain in her legs was so bad. She was terrified, and the last time I saw her, I held her while she cried in my arms repeating "I don't want to die" over and over again. It broke my heart, and a week later she died. She had fallen out of bed and was in too much pain to get back in it, so she died alone on the floor of her room. My strong, beautiful mother lived her last moments alone, scared and in pain. Because of this, the most disturbing thing I've ever seen was her corpse laying on the floor, still wearing her favorite pajamas. I miss her so much. Edited to add, thank you very much to those who chose to give me an award, and thank you to everyone who sent their love. To those who have or know people who have lupus, and those who have also lost someone they love, I'm so sorry and I wish you all the best. All I can say is that life can be cut short in an instant, so make sure that the people you love know how much you care about them. Take care everyone. 2. Fireworks accident. Back in the 90s, all you could legally acquire here were tiny firecrackers with a fuse. The really heavy stuff, like nitrate crackers and cobras, wasn't really around yet. What the cool kids did have were strikers. These were heavier firecrackers from Germany and Eastern Europe that didn't have a fuse, but a match head you had to strike to set them off. I think their official use is to scare birds away from crop fields. They were also notoriously unreliable in their timing. When I was 8 or so, I watched a bunch of older kids playing with these. The bangs were pretty impressive. Then one of them struck one that went off almost immediately, right in his hand. It took off his middle 3 fingers, just like that. It's not so much the gore that stuck with me, it's the look of surprise on his face melting into sadness and despair. He didn't even scream with pain at first. He just started crying mournfully at the realization of what had just happened. It was only when his mother got there that, I assume, the pain hit him like a ton of bricks and he started screaming. I'll never forget the look on his face though. Poor kid. 3. Watched one of my students become a quadriplegic. He was 16 and it was a crazy winter sports accident. I was a dorm dad at a boarding school and he was one of the students I watched over/advised. Not blood and gore, I'll never forget the sound of his impact on the icy snow. I'll never forget medics tapping his shins and asking him if he could feel it and him saying no. I'll never forget how fucking scared his face looked the whole time even as the painkiller kicked in. Fantastic kid, the kind of teenager you would describe as a lovable shithead, trying so hard to get it right and falling short as often as he succeeded. At one point I remember we were sitting playing FIFA while he chatted about his world. He paused the game abruptly mid-story, looked at me and said, "Bro, I have so many hormones right now." He's a grown-up now, graduated college and all that. Haven't talked to him in a while but now that's on my list. Also yes, internet, I do have an amazing support system that's helped me process it. My B if the description did not show that. 4. Growing up with both parents being drug addicts I saw too much and it has definitely made me the person I am today. One memory was my parents were on a particular long and horrible bender. They locked themselves in their bedroom for days on end. I was left to care for myself and siblings alone. We were starving and had no food. I called a family friend crying. He immediately came and broke down the door. What I saw scarred me forever. Blood all over the walls and ceiling due to them using needles and it covered everything. They looked like zombies and the smell was so disgusting coming from them and the entire room. They had not bathed or even left the room and were just sweating in their filth. They were smoking it as well and burned marks in the carpet, table and bed. I'm surprised we didn't have a house fire. They were in such a panic state and fighting the friend I called as he had broke the door down. He yelled to me to take the drugs and toss them while he held them both back. They were fiends and screaming as I grabbed it all. I ran to the toilet to flush it all. My mother grabbed me and pinned me against the wall pounding me. She was so strong she could have killed me. The friend got away from my father and took her off of me. He hit her and I got away. Traumatized, emotionally stunned, I don't remember how I gathered myself to be strong for my little brother and sister but I did. We sat in the living room huddled together under a blanket and cried so much. I'm proud to say all 3 of us have never touched any illegal substances growing up and into adulthood. We are so traumatized by seeing the effects of what drug use can do to your body, mind, and your loved ones. I turned it into something positive as substance abuse and mental health are my strong fields and I have made a career from it. My father ultimately passed away from a heroin overdose in 2004. He died at home and of course we witnessed that too. He was a great man and growing up he pressed us to continue our education to better ourselves. He always said to me that he wished he could do better for us and hoped that seeing them struggle with addiction will deter us from following the path they did. I hope he sees and is proud. 5. Dead teenager getting ignored on the sidewalk in the French Quarter in New Orleans. One evening, right before dusk, I was walking to work from the bus. On Canal Street, which was very busy in regards to foot traffic, right before you get to the Walgreens, There was a dead teenager laying face up on the sidewalk. Very visible. Nothing to obscure him from anyone's view. It wasn't that he was dead that made it my choice for this answer. It was everyone ignoring him. Walking by or over someone's dead child. One of his shoes was in the street, and he was laying perfectly flat, so someone moved him after he was either hit by a car or possibly stabbed in the back. This was during the final big week of Mardi Gras, so there were tourists everywhere in addition to locals. They were more interested in getting to Bourbon Street to get drunker, than pausing to see if someone's young teenager was okay. You couldn't tell he was dead unless you really paid attention, otherwise you would have thought he was just passed out. Even still, he looked about 14-15. You stop. This wasn't just another passed out drunk tourist or homeless guy, this was a child. 6. I'm just straight copying this from my post a few months ago on a similar question. Back in the late 90s, I managed a porn store. The business was basically separated into the sales floor, with all the videos and toys and whatnot, and the arcade, which was a bunch of booths with video screens in there. The customers would put in dollars, and watch movies for a few minutes. A lot of other things went on back there, obviously. There were signs posted prohibiting it, but that was just to satisfy the city ordinances. One day, it had been a slow morning, and the only person in the store other than me was a homeless guy named Dap that I would let hang out inside when it was cold outside. This was in January in Kansas City, so it was pretty cold that day. My shift started at 8 a.m., and I had already been there a few hours, just listening to music and chatting with Dap. At around 12 p.m., a couple more customers came in. One was just wandering the sales floor, looking at videos. The other one went directly into the arcade. A few minutes later, he comes out and looks a bit spooked. He comes up to me, and in very broken English says something like, "Man back there, very bad, very bad." I assumed this man back there tried to hook up with the Mexican guy, and the Mexican guy was upset about it. So I grab my flashlight, very little light back there, and figure I'm just going to go back and tell him to knock it off. Dap comes with me, saying he's got my back, in case the guy gets aggressive, which could definitely happen. So, Dap and I start wandering back there, looking into each booth. There were 12 of them, for this man. We get into the back alley, which is where the glory holes were, and is where you go if you want to hook up. In the second to last booth on that row, we saw what very bad meant. Before I describe it, I need to explain the setup of the booths. They were small, probably 4 to 5 feet square, with the door on the south end, the video monitor on the north end, and on east and west, there's a hole cut into the wall for watching other people, but really, they're for sticking your dick in to get it sucked, obviously. There's a metal stool with a round seat that swivels, and it's bolted to the concrete floor, right in the center of the little room. This man had to have been there since before my shift started, because for hours the only person who had come in was Dap. The sales counter was next to the only door to the business, which beeps when it's opened. So I would have known if someone had come in. He was wedged into the corner of the booth, with his ass in the northeast corner, and he was on his back. His legs were bent back over his body and wedged under the stool. He was fully, unnaturally, folded in half. He had used the stool to leverage himself into a position where he could suck his own dick. Dap says, "Fuck." To which I reply, "Holy shit, what the fuck?" Then Dap says, "I don't think he's breathing, man. You gotta give him CPR or something." I tried talking to the guy first. Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing. So I sort of nudged at him with my foot. Suddenly, I hear a wet plop, and it sounds like someone is dumping a thick liquid all over the floor. It reeks of alcohol and vomit. The man is making a rasping, shuddery gasping sound, and there's a sickening gurgle in his throat. His breathing sounded fucking awful, but he was breathing at least. I turned to Dap and said, "Good enough for me," and we ran out of the arcade so I could call 911. So soon there was a fire engine, an ambulance, and a police car outside the store. The firemen had to actually cut part of the booth away, as well as the stool, just to get the guy out of there. They told me that he was clearly dangerously drunk before he even attempted it, but he had also managed to crack vertebrae in his attempt to suck himself off. He made it, but it definitely wasn't worth it. Who knows how long he had been unable to breathe. I sincerely doubt he survived much longer than that. I knew it was bad when they were saying they'd never seen anything even remotely close to this in their line of work. We joked about it, but it definitely gave me some fucked up nightmares for a while.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.